You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, check out chrisblair.com. Hey everybody, here's another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm your host, Chris Blair, and this week I'm sitting down with my buddy Neil Medley. Now, Neil was one of the first friends I ever had when I moved to Nashville. One of the first guys I met, and he's just a great dude. He is from the south end of Louisville, Kentucky area and moved to Nashville about 20 years ago or so. He's written songs for Luke Bryan, Jake Owen, Josh Abbott Band featuring Carly Pearce, Tyler Farr, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, Cody Johnson, and so many more. We're going to talk about stories behind some of those songs, how he left a marketing job to pursue songwriting, and what led him to his first publishing deal. We're also going to talk about a brand new project he has coming out that I am so excited about. This comes out September 29th, and it is a full album of 12 songs that he's written with him as the artist. This record, South End Kid, he texted this to me for a sneak peek listen, and it is so great. It's real, raw, honest, folky, Americana, all in one. It takes me back to when I first moved to town, and I would sit on the back porch with Neil, sipping a bourbon, listening to him play all of these kind of songs. And this just sounds like what he grew up on, and it's just so great. I can't say that more. Neil calls it adult country, and I just say it's good music. I love this guy. This is Neil Medley. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and I am here today with my buddy Neil Medley. How you doing, man?
Doing great. How are you?
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we this is going to be a lot of fun because we can go back. You've had so much success, but you were one of the first guys I ever met when I moved to town,
and vice versa.
So yeah.
So we hung around in a little crew, and you were doing, I think, banking at the time.
I was,
with my wife.
Yeah.
So it's a small world.
I would go put my suit and tie on, go to the bank, get off at 5 o'clock, and fly to the alley of Tootsie's, change into stage clothes, and play Tootsie's from 6 to 10.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I was doing marketing at the time, and then I was picking up rights whenever I could somehow get them.
Yeah.
So and it's crazy how our paths kind of just keep doing like this.
Yeah.
But it's great to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Well, let's just go back to the beginning. I mean,
Okay.
Obviously, like, we've known each other for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Let's fill everybody in. You're from Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, Valley Station, Kentucky, which is a little suburb on the side in the southwest corner of Kentucky. Went to the University of Kentucky, and when I graduated, I graduated with a journalism degree, and I was going to go work in Bardstown at some small paper. I was also working with my dad, who did construction, and one day I just decided I was gonna make the leap. I'd always been a big fan of like Guy Clark and Steve Earle and Rodney Crowell and all those great songwriters. So I was like, I'm gonna go see what the songwriting thing is. So I blew right past Bardstown, just kept going south, and my brother brought me down in a U-Haul and just got set up here, and it took a little while, but I went through. It was the best decision I ever made, honestly. Yeah. And obviously,
So when you came to town, were you did you have songwriting on your mind, or was it more artist? Or
no, it was purely songwriting.
Okay.
I think I met, like, one of my visits to Nashville, I saw Phil Vassar play at his little bar in Antioch.
Yeah.
And he had just had a bunch of number ones for, like, I think it was Colin Ray, or it was them, and Little Red Rodeo and all that.
Yeah.
And he was playing them on stage, and he goes, "Yeah, this song's number one this week." And I was like, but that's not, that's where I put the songwriting thing. So it was like, that's the first time I ever realized that there was a job, like a professional songwriter, where you didn't actually have to sing the songs yourself.
Yeah.
So I was like, that sounds good. So I just pulled in town, and here I am.
Well, you've got a great voice. We're going to get to that a little bit later, but some cool things happening there. So going back to songwriting, so you pile up the U-Haul, you make it to town. So how did you get into your camp of writing and ultimately lead to your first publishing deal?
Sure, that's a much longer story actually than getting here. To get here and to live here, I had to get a job, and that job kind of turned into somewhat of my plan B started turning into a plan A, and then I was working all the time, not really songwriting. I'd go out and hang out to Bluebird or wherever I could, but then the job, the paycheck kept pulling me that way. And I met my wife, Robin, which you know, and we started dating, and then I got a marketing job, and I was even further away from it. And then it's been, I think, about 13 years ago, my mom got sick, and that was a good reevaluation time for me. I was like, I didn't move here to be a marketing person.
Yeah.
So, and Robin was doing well, and we were doing well. She said, just take a year off, go chase it. And did my business plan. It's like, here's what I'm going to do. And then I started, had a friend, Malia, that kind of introduced me to Matthew Miller, who was at Carnival at the time, and introducing me to different people at different publishing companies. And then I met Brent Cobb, and we started writing, and the first song we ever wrote was my first cut. So it was at my kitchen table, and it was crazy. It took once I left marketing, it probably took about a year and a half, and I had to re-up my contract with my wife, say, hey, I'm going to do this another year. She was like, okay. And she thought it was going to go a lot faster, but that's how Nashville works.
Yeah.
So we got without a deal at all, I got the Luke Bryan cut, and I met with all these publishers who didn't want anything to do with me, like a week before. When they found out I got the Luke Bryan cut, they were like, we always knew you had it. So the
sounds about right.
Yeah, the phone started blowing up, and I met a guy named Walter Campbell, and he partnered with Sony ATV at the time as my first publishing deal. So it was a lot of lessons in that deal, and a lot of fun. And I always appreciate Walter for giving me a shot, because he was the first one in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's great. So after that Luke cut, well, first of all, like, that's got to be a pretty amazing. Like, you're getting your first cut with, that's huge.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
usually you start with like a baby act or someone you don't know, and Luke was about to explode. That was the Tailgates and Tan Lines record, and he cut it. And I remember we had just had our second child, Georgia, and I was walking her with one of those umbrella strollers down our street, because I was still basically unemployed, and Robin was working during the day, and I was writing at night. So it was my shift with the baby. And Brent Cobb called me and goes, hey, bud, Luke just cut our song. And he sent me a text with Luke and our lyrics. And I just took off running. And that stroller was just going, and I was like, oh my God. I called Robin. I was like, Luke Bryan cut our song. And like I said, she didn't know Luke was about to blow up. She was like, okay, that's great. That's great. And then it was a huge album. And I mean, just to have a two-way, have the publishing on that, it was really incredible. But yeah, it felt like first cut, oh, we're off now. But it didn't work that way. I mean, we had that big cut on a big album, and it wasn't a single, but it's still, people still bring it up, which is really, really cool. It's like one of the favorite cult songs, I guess, so to speak. But I thought it was going to be I was in the fast lane, and then they quickly realized it doesn't work like that. So there were some bumps at Sony. I don't know if I got like a real major label cut the 2 years I was there, other than the song I was bringing in. Yeah. So, but I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here and still doing great.
Yeah.
So then, I guess then walk me into the trajectory after that.
Okay.
Leading up to Jake.
Yeah, I spent some time at Warner Chapel. I spent like 4 years. Had some really good cuts. Josh Abbott cut. I think we got the Kid Rock cut, and like some really good things that were so close to happening, but never really. The Tyler Farr, Jason Aldean song. It was so close to happening, but none of them popped out as a big single, other than Wasn't That Drunk for Josh and Carly's first song.
Yeah.
And then I went to Hori Pro, which was just an indie little publishing company, and met a lot of good people there. And we wrote a song. I think it was like the first week I was there, and Courtney Chris said, "Hey, Benjy Davis got canceled on. Do you mind him jumping on with you and Joey Hyde?" It's like, absolutely. I love Benjy.
Yeah.
First time we've all written together, we sat down and wrote Made for You. And she took the work tape. I think it was either that day or the next day, sent it straight to Jake, and Jake locked it down immediately. That was the first pitch. We didn't pitch it to anyone else, and he had it for a little bit. We were like, is he going to cut this thing? Then he started playing it out. He was playing it out at different shows, I guess trying it out.
Yeah.
And got a good reaction, and they finally cut it exactly like our little work tape demo that Joey and Benjy did. So it was an incredible ride. What a great. And then I guess it was released. I'm trying to remember if it was on the record. It was like the fourth single. It had been on The Bachelor, and then it was like a few years later they said, we're going with it as a single, right as COVID was hitting. And we were hearing that country radio doesn't want any slow songs. And Jake goes, here's a slow song for you. And they rode that thing for about 50 weeks or something like that. And they got it up to number one, and it stayed up there for a couple weeks. It was people say, people have different reactions on number ones. It was all positive for me on that front. It was like the best feeling. I felt like I could finally prove something to my family, like they put in all that hard work and that belief in me. To be able to deliver that and to have that to stand on was a big thing for our family and my career. So it was super special. I owe Jake so much.
Take me into the writer's room with Joey and Benjy.
Okay.
Like, how'd that song come about?
I remember we were writing at Hori Pro at it was Bart Butler's, it looked like a kitchen table. It was a round table, which I loved. And Benjy had the idea. He goes, I got an idea called Made for You. I was like, okay. I mean, simple title. And he goes, Water Tower were made for spray paint names, and Leaves were made for jumping in, and I was made for you. I was like, that's awesome. So that's my favorite kind of writing, is like, it's the puzzle. The puzzle's there. Now let's put the pieces in. And we wrote, it felt like 100 different lines. In the first version, we thought we were done, and then we started talking later that night, and I think I had a bourbon. I was just sitting there, and we were all texting. Then we all got on like a little conference call, and we were like, it's just not flowing. Like, the things didn't connect as well as we wanted them to. And then I wrote a couple different lines, and I think Benjy wrote one, and then they started all, like, you could see the connectors. But it was I guess written twice. So we wrote it in the room, and we rewrote it at home, where I guess most of the great songs are rewritten. So it was I didn't think anyone would cut it. It was just kind of a folky, and we're still going with the big production kind of town. And I was like, and then I heard LAX by Jake Owen, and I was like, well, there's a shot with Jake. And he heard exactly what we heard in the song and really championed for it.
Yeah.
And Joey did a great job on the production, and Seth and the team just worked it to death.
Worked it to number one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
do you typically do that? Do you write and then, like stay in the room until you feel pretty good about it and then it's usually done? Or do you?
It's different every day. I mean, there's different speeds. There's different co-writers with different speeds.
Yeah.
When you got a track, I mean, if track guy in the room, it feels a little more, fast paced to where you're almost, which is good and bad. I hear a lot of you hear a lot of the track guy things where you're like, if we would have just spent one more hour on that lyric, just to iron things out, I think it would have been a better song. But depends on who I'm with. Like Tony Lane will take his time, Casey will take his time. And I think the newer guys are, let's get it out there. Let's put it on the.
Yeah, especially with track guy, you've got a finished song by the time you get home.
Yeah, and I'm not one to. I'm okay with taking 2 days, 3 days to write a song.
Yeah,
I don't need to have a finished song. The quota is only 12 songs, and I'd rather have 12 really good songs than 200 okay songs. Yeah. So that's my philosophy in that. I don't always live up to that because there's certain songs when you're on them and you're in the room and it's not going exactly the way you want to, or the idea's not coming out. You're like, well, we won't rewrite this song. We'll just let this one slide and disappear into nothing. But the ones that you really feel special about, like that give you that feeling like there's something here, I like to go back even that night or the next morning and see if there's some lines that can be beaten, or if there's a totally different perspective we missed. Yeah. So I guess that's my job. Yeah. We'll let Joey Hyde do all the melodies,
there you go.
and Benjy do his cool thing. But yeah, that's quality control on the back end is I like that. So
when Benjy brought that idea, did he have a guitar? I mean, he's so great on guitar. Like, did he have
he had that
whole
lick. Yeah, he had that boom, 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 boom. Yeah, he played it, and he started singing, and he's a great singer.
Yeah, he is.
And Jake even admits, I cut that because Benjy's voice was on that demo, and he sang it so well. He had that, but he had a few lines, and I think Joey jumped in on the chorus, took it to where it went, that bridgy chorus thing, and it was just one of the best days because they're two of my best buds.
Yeah.
So when you write a song, I didn't know it was going to be that special, but I knew I liked it. But when you write a song like that with your good friends, I don't think there's anything better than that.
Yep.
Yeah. And at the time, like, none of us had any hits, and we were all at the same level. Usually there's one guy, there's a Clausen or a Gorley and you kind of, it was just three us's, it was just three dudes that really didn't have that track record. And for, Big Loud to trust three dudes with a single campaign, it was special.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man.
Thank you.
So what was after that? Well, you started moving pretty quick. I mean, you've had so much success here recently too. So
yeah, I've been blessed. None of them have been that like single but I've been on, like I said, like the Kid Rock thing was really cool to be on at the time, and there's been some really good cuts and really good artists that believe in my song. Josh Abbott still believes. Brent still puts songs we've written out, and he's a special artist. And it's
how have things been with Lindsay Ell? She's I've always loved her. She's played here for years and years, and just killer guitar player and vocalist. And
she is. She cut the "I Don't Love You" song.
Yeah.
And that was right at the same time. I had a Josh Abbott single that was going to radio. I had Lindsay that was at radio, and I had Jake going out to radio. And then COVID happened, and like I said earlier, they didn't want a lot of fat or slow songs
Yeah.
kind of during that for some reason, and it just didn't move. It didn't move. But I still think it's one of her best vocal performances that I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Huff's production on that song was
Killer.
Unbelievable. And I wrote that with Adam Hambrick, who I'm writing with after this.
Yeah.
And his vocal on the demo is unbelievable, as you can expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she heard him play that at a sound check, and goes, "I'm going to cut that song." So it's no telling where these things are going to happen. But yeah, I'm glad he played it in the sound check.
Yeah.
So, but she did well with it, and I think there were some TV appearances. We've gotten a lot of placements from it, but I think radio-wise, it didn't get the love that I think it deserved, because I think that was, she did everything right.
Yeah.
And Dan did everything right on that track, and it was just a weird time.
Yeah.
So that's just my career in a nutshell, you know?
The cool thing about where we are with digital now, though, is that those things can always come back around.
Yeah.
So, it's such a great song, and I think we're starting to see some of that. I've seen some stuff that has been released a couple of years, and then all of a sudden it's like, there's a couple things that are hitting the the hot country chart.
Absolutely.
that has been out for 2 years, and it's like,
even the
where'd
Kate
this come
Bush
from?
thing, which is the wildest thing ever. It might get picked up in Stranger Things and become the #1 song of the year.
Right.
So, I love it. It's Wild West. It's a good thing, but you never know where to point your aim. You know, it gets a little writing with new artists, or are they going to be the next Luke Combs? Writing with the old artists, or they still get a shot left? Or are they going to be like, Joe Nichols, Sonny, and 75 make a comeback, keep making comebacks? You just gotta concentrate on writing a good song.
Yeah.
You can't worry about where it's going to go, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the song always finds the way. That's what they say.
Right.
And some days they do, and some days they don't. But that's the best job ever, so I'm not complaining.
It is, man.
Yeah,
it is. This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all. How often do you write? Your quota's 12. So like what are you every day?
Yeah, I am.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I try to take Fridays off just to get new ideas, but I like my calendar pretty busy. I'm not like, you remember Phil Barton's calendar?
Oh my gosh.
He's writing triples.
Two and 3 a day. Yeah.
I'm not that. I will finish one in the morning. I will, like Ray Fulcher likes to do a 9 o'clock, and we'll just whittle on songs at 9 and until we have to go to our 11. So it kind of no pressure. We just want to get the right lines. There's a few people like Jason Gant that I used to do that with, and that's fun because you're waking up, and I think that's my best time writing wise. When I first get up, because there's stuff running through my head, and by 11 I'm like, okay, what are we doing now? It feels like you're past that a little bit, but then you reconnect with the energy in the room. But it's that.
I want to switch over here in a little bit, but any other good stories of just whether it's been released or not, just some like a good story of idea to getting it down on at least a work tape, like just.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the idea of it being cut or just the
in the creative process, just so many people listening, I think, are either songwriters that
Sure.
Are doing this and love it, or they're aspiring. They should I move to Nashville, and like, how does this all work? And so many of us moved to town, and like you were talking about, like with Phil Vassar, it's like I think so many people listen to these songs on radio or Spotify or Apple Music or wherever they're listening, right? And there's just this assumption that the artist singing the song is the one that wrote the song.
Yeah.
And it's that's what this is all about, is to take people behind the curtain, behind the stories behind the songs, and show them the different creative processes of what happens. I'm going to sit down with publishers and road guys
Sure.
and all of this kind
Sure.
of thing, but like that's what I mean. Like, take me in, just talk a little bit more about how that works, and like just a cool story of a song that you've written.
Okay. My morning is like, if I could do, like, once the girls go to bed, I have 2 daughters. Once they go to bed, I like to sit around and play guitar in my music room and just see what comes out, because I think that's the best time for me to think and clear my head, and that's when God drops the melodies or the song ideas in my head. I think that, and driving in. So there's a lot of that time, like figuring out what we're going to write, and whatever comes out is kind of cool. Hopefully for the right. I write 4 or 5 times a week, so I need a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
I don't want to just sit there and go, I got nothing.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to dig from movies, books, articles, podcasts, whatever you hear, and maybe you hear somebody just say one word that just jumps out at you, and bringing those into rooms and figuring out what that is with your friends, like what would make this word or this idea special. So one time, like with me and S Ice and Joey Hyde again, we wrote this song called American Rock and Roll, and it was we sat at a piano. S Ice played the piano. I don't play the piano, but he played. We wrote the song American Rock and Roll. Well, Joey was an artist then. He was on Universal, and he cut it for his record. And unfortunately, like 6 months to a year later, he lost his deal.
Yeah.
And nothing came out. The song didn't come out. And Joe Fisher was his A&R person. And we were like, sorry guys, it's not going to happen. Well, I think it was like 3 years later, Joe Fisher was hanging out with Kid Rock at the Ryman. And it was Maren Morris, I think, was playing. And they go backstage to see Maren, and Joey is back there. And Joe sees Joey Hyde and goes, you know what? Bobby, Kid Rock, Bobby Ritchie, he goes, he wrote a song I think you would really dig. And Joe goes, yeah, I think you'd really dig it. He goes, I'll be the judge of that. And they sent him American Rock and Roll like 3 years later. And I get a call. I didn't know any of this was going on. I get a call from my publisher, Ryan Beisel, on Monday, and he goes, hey, a guy named Bobby Ritchie wants to cut your song American Rock and Roll. And I was like, okay. It's like, who is Bobby Ritchie? He goes, Kid Rock, dude. I was like, no way. Yeah, and so he ended up like cutting it with our good friends Derek Wells and all the studio guys.
Yeah.
And they're sending pictures and from the studio, and yeah, he put it out, named his tour that, had T-shirts, and it was a really cool, like, only in Nashville kind of moment where you're sitting there going, there's that song should have died on the vine, but people, a good song, they keep finding it.
They rise up.
Yeah. So that was really exciting. And I've had songs, I've had a bunch of work tapes get cut. That's what Dave Cobb likes. So the Brent stuff, it's all just work tapes, and you can spend a lot of money on demos, and you can spend a lot of money on demos that ruin the song almost.
Yeah.
You can find more
Yeah.
magic in the work tape sometimes.
Yeah.
But this town gets more and more. You're competing against track guys for listens, and when you hear a good track, it kind of dwarfs a good work tape. So you got to spend a lot more money on the front end just to get your song heard by A&R people or artists that prefer work tapes. But people like Jake and Chesney and people like that still like to hear a good work tape.
Yeah.
So, and Frank Liddell, and he was
Yeah.
all about that. Dave Cobb, all those people that really don't want to be influenced by someone's interpretation of the song.
That's what it is. It's influence. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just a simple acoustic and vocal
Exactly.
lets the artist kind of be creative in their own mind of like, all right, where can I take this? And they've got the melody and everything, but they can start to kind of think of like what is the beat going to be? What is all this stuff? And yeah,
Sure.
like the same like, you know, just songs that where you've got a track guy in there and you've got like it's really hard to kind of think outside of that box when you hear this.
Exactly. When they get the drums cranking,
Yeah.
you're like, well, there's the tight box we got to fit that song into.
Yeah.
And the good track guys wait. Like or if you hear something that's really good to write to,
Sure.
there's
Yeah.
value to that as
Yeah.
well. But when you're starting and they're locking you into that whatever they've come up with, it gets tough.
Yeah.
But when they wait a little bit and see where a song's going to go, that's where the good ones come from. But,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I mentioned earlier, you've got a great voice. I remember like, you know, just new into town, we'd sit down in your music room
Yeah.
and pour some bourbons and
A few bourbons.
yeah. And you know, sit out on your back porch looking at the pond and the golf course and
Yeah.
you know, just kind of pass the guitar around. And I mean, I told you back then, man, he's just such a unique, cool voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And you last night you sent me a sneak peek of what's coming out,
That's right.
which is amazing. So let's talk about that.
All right. Well, you know, coming out of COVID, I was just really kind of felt like I was going through the motions, and like the artists had all their songs because they had been writing through COVID, and so there's an album of just about every artist where they wrote all their own songs, just last year or the year before, and it just didn't seem like things were moving. I felt stuck. I really felt stuck creatively. I felt stuck as you know, just where I wanted to go with my career. And I just got on a whim. I just called my buddy Aaron Esice. I go, hey, you remember talking about wanting to do a record with me? He goes, yep. I said, are you ready? He said, absolutely.
Let's go.
Let's go. And it felt like I was calling a girl in high school and asking them out. I was so nervous, and I'm a grown man. I was just like, what if he says no? What if he, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know, but I knew it was what I needed to do. It was, so he goes, what if we do it over Christmas? This was like October. He goes, what if we do it between Christmas and New Year's? I've always wanted to do a record in between there and just start the year off on a positive note. I was like, okay. Like, oh my goodness, I gotta do this now. So he hired the band and sent me like, here's your band. It'll be at my studio. We're gonna do this. And I was like, I gotta do it now. So yeah, we cut 13, put 12 songs on this record. And there's songs I've collected. I think I wrote one at Warner. I wrote a bunch at Hori Pro. I wrote their new songs. I mean, it's just filled with songs that I knew I didn't have to please an A&R person. I knew I didn't have to please radio. I wanted to do it what makes my heart full.
Yeah.
Those songs, if they're heartbreak songs, if they're good time, drink a beer songs, but it's left of center. just kind of chill, like drink a bourbon to kind of music.
Yeah.
And Aaron S. Ice did an absolutely amazing job on the production. And he kept me like focused. He knew what the end game was as far as it was sonically. We found the songs that fit like perfectly together. We did a Springsteen cover. And I hate to pat myself on the back, but it's badass.
Yeah, it is.
I just love it. And there were songs. We got a Tony Lane song on there. I've got Ryan Beaver, Jesse Joe Dillon, and Keith Gaddis singing on my record. And unfortunately, Keith passed. And it was a song we wrote called "Closer All the Time" about me missing my mom. And that album is so special to me now, knowing that, I'd give anything for him to be here and be with his family and still be around.
Yeah.
It's just to have his voice on that record, it means the world to me. So, well, I talked to his wife and Courtney Christ, and I said, do you mind if I call it a feature? Because I want everybody to hear his voice. And so, so that was, it's unbelievable. Like it was a connector. Like this album, like it snapped me right out of it. Like I had so much adrenaline, and like I was ready to go, and it inspired me, and I was inspired again. It connected me to old songs, connected me to new songs. It connected me back to this town.
Yeah.
Because people see me as maybe I'm the lyricist, or that guy, he's got a cool voice, or that, whatever. I've been here for 13, 15 years writing. People have made their mind up about me one way or the other. I wanted this to say, oh, I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah.
So it's just something to add to the conversation where it's not, they have to reevaluate what they know about me. And, but it's reconnecting me to my hometown. The name of it is South End Kid. So, I grew up on the South End of Louisville, and it was not the most wealthy part of town. It was far from it, but there's some good people there. They've reached out since the first single's been dropped, and it's reconnecting me to a lot of things, which was a beautiful surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that I did it. Certainly glad S. Ice said yes and made it exactly what it could be. I mean, he really elevated everything. So I owe him the world. And I'm glad Jesse Joe Dillon decided she wanted to sing on one of my songs.
Yeah.
Because I think that's cool as hell.
Super
too.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love, just the title track, just moving to Nashville, and you find out that, Nashville doesn't care if you're a South End kid.
No, they don't care.
It's just like, there's so much truth and stories that I think people, no matter how they grew up, because even if you're on a rich kid, you still got issues.
Yeah.
That, but yeah, it that one really touched me, and it also kind of took me back to, sitting around with you back in the day, just listening to you play, because I could hear like the songs that you used to pick up your guitar and play were not the hits on country radio at that time.
No.
You would always go back to, like the old folk and Americana and, just roots country.
Yeah.
That I think was a big inspiration to you. So talk about that a little bit, because that's, again, like I heard a lot of that. And that's one of the things I loved so much about it.
That's an awesome compliment. I appreciate that, because it was the Bruce Robinsons, the Charlies, the Willie Nelson, the Radney Foster.
Yeah.
It's those albums that Gaddis did, that Radney did, that like Keith Urban cut 4 songs off the Radney record or whatever it was. It was the songs I always gravitated. They were my moon, I guess, or my North Star. So it's in my musical DNA. They have just hardwired me to be that. And yeah, those guys, Hal Ketchum, I remember that used to be my like go-to guitar song, I Miss My Mary.
Yeah.
And never was a hit, but it's one of the best written songs he's ever done, and of the 90s, I think. And no one knows about it. Everybody thinks I wrote it when I play it. I'm like, no. Or sometimes I go, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's one huge influence. But yeah, those, I guess the folky guys, man, I always loved it. I don't want to be blown away from a speaker. I want to be pulled into it. And those guys always brought me in.
That's such a good way to put that.
Yeah, I love like some tempo jams, but where Dwight Yoakam's and the people that make me think, they make me just chill. I love the word lyrics of a song. That's where I'm at. My wife is totally different. She's Michael Jackson, Guns N' Roses. She wants her head do like this, but I just want. Do you have anything to say? And have you said it differently? Is it the truth? Do I believe it? It's that's where I kind of go as a music fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate you saying that, because that's exactly. It's a weird time to admit, who influences you legally, but they were always the best, and they kept me around. Like when I was trying to write bro country for a few years, I never listened to bro country, but I went back to those my mentors, my heroes, to kind of find my path. And Brandy Clark once told me, she goes, "Don't try to be anything else than who you are." She heard a great quote. It's your thing. Go to that thing and do it well. You can't write the bro country songs, because the guys that write bro country songs, they love that. If you write it, it doesn't sound realistic, or it doesn't sound authentic.
Yeah.
Write what you love and go there. So I think that was one of the best words of advice you can give a writer.
Yeah.
Because people send me songs all the time that, are considering moving to Nashville, and it sounds just like what's on the radio. Everybody goes through that copy phase, or
sure.
But find out what you love and figure out your way of presenting it. Don't just copy what Ashley and Dallas and all those guys are doing.
Yeah.
Because they've got it.
Yeah.
And you ain't going to beat them at their own game. So.
Yeah, and you got to stay ahead of it too, and know, know what's coming, which is kind of a crystal ball, because we don't know what's coming. But it's like, things are kind of shifting back now to like, it's like, we grew up listening. We're same age. We grew up listening to like that rock and Guns N' Roses and all of this kind of stuff. And then, then it was like that 90s country that was just like, so great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're seeing a lot of that. And I think that's such good advice. We had Mark Irwin on not too long ago.
Love Mark.
And he talked about, like, he's been in town for over 25 years, and he's been writing the same stuff. So going from the first number one for Alan Jackson, and then he had 20 years or something like that until he had his more recent success.
Sure.
But he talked about that fact that in these different phases, he continued to write what he is and who he is. And it also kind of ties into what you were talking about earlier with the song that, gets kind of dropped with Joey, and then like a couple years later gets released with Kid Rock. Like the same thing happened with him. He wrote this song for Lainey Wilson, and then nothing, it didn't make the record, and nothing happened with it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a feature in Yellowstone because they loved it so much, and then they were like, well, let's add it to the record. So now, it's like,
Exactly.
but it was because it's that full circle of staying true to who you are and just writing
100%.
what you believe.
Yeah, and it was right at the time that, Made for You came out. I mean, there weren't a lot of story songs anymore. It was just parties. It was, it was about Friday and Saturday night. It wasn't about Monday through Thursday. And we noticed that, there were songs that came after that kind of had that same approach to things, not in a bad way or anything, but people were more accepting of putting out stuff that, they don't have to be tough all the time.
Yeah.
They can admit they're married. They can, admit they have kids, or they can sing about marriage and kids even when they don't have, they're delivering the song.
Yeah.
And I love where this is going right now. I don't know where it's going to continue to go, but it kind of swung back into something I enjoy, like the songs. I guess maybe that's why I'm having an uptick in, getting songs cut right now, because it's okay again. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to, to put your heart in a song. It's not just about tailgates and drinking beer anymore,
right.
which I love some of those songs too, but when you got 89% or 99% of the songs sound exactly the same, it's nice to kind of mix in like real people stuff.
Yeah.
Because they weren't speaking to us for a couple of years, and now everybody's coming back to speaking to a broader audience instead of trying to get the 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Even Morgan, he's got some amazing songs that, he mixes in with, and it's the perfect way to go. I mean, you got to have that balance, I think, especially in our genre.
Yeah, 100%. What's your take on male versus female right now? Do you have there's just been so much talk. I mean, we had it several years ago, and it seems like with us doing Song Suffragettes on Mondays here, obviously we probably hear more about it. But, what do you think about the ratio between...
I love where it's going.
You do?
Yeah. I really do.
You think it's moving and playing more females?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some really badass females.
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody to get radio time, I want them to be great.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't just get radio time because you're a guy or you sound a certain way or whatever. If it's a great song, this is just me being a radio programmer. If it's a great song, I don't care what you are. I mean, just be really good.
Yeah.
And don't recycle. Just be original. And I like the girls they have to be more original than the guys, unfortunately. So Carly's different than Lainey.
Yep.
And, Springsteen's, she's doing her own thing. There's so many different cool variations of the female product, or whatever you want to side of things.
Right.
And I hope it raises the game for the guys. I mean, there was a time, there's still a little bit of that time, you could not tell who's singing what.
Yeah.
Like, who is that? Is that A, B, or C, or D?
Right.
They're not.
Yeah, there still is some of that. There's songs
there
that
definitely
I've heard.
is. But the women, unfortunately, had to be distinct.
Totally unique.
And totally. So, or you had to be a part of a group, or you had to have a male feature on it. I mean, there's all kinds of politics that I don't believe are really true statements. But I think if girls are great, and the girl game right now is awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope it continues, because they're influencing all these new younger women to come up. Dad of two girls, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like, I want variation. And radio, I mean, if they don't hear it on the radio, they'll hear it on Spotify. They'll hear it on Apple. They'll go find it. Yeah. So you might as well be awesome.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about what we get to do here, because we hear the artist before anybody else does.
Sure.
There's so many people that go across the stage, and male and female, but like, you know, just where you get to hear just these great songs. And, you know, especially people like Lindsay, you know, like when you've got a great lyricist who also can sing the phone book and sound amazing and rip a guitar like she does, I mean, look out.
Yeah.
You know, it's just,
I mean, and I think she got kind of caught, like if she was coming out right now.
yeah.
I
she
mean,
had bad timing, but like I think
her
time is still coming.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I didn't want to approach it that way. Like she would have had less of a challenge getting like pushing that rock uphill.
Yeah.
And I mean, God bless Carly. She's become like the face of country music, which is,
she's
you know,
it.
She's pulling people up with her, you know, and that means a lot to the genre.
Yeah,
it really does. I love good guy songs, but I love like when a girl or female, you know, gets a song right. It's just as awesome. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but
I love good songs. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with like Patty Griffith and, you know, and Patty Loveless, you know.
Yeah.
I love Emmylou Harris is one of my all-time heroes. So that's what I want. I think a balanced, it doesn't have to be 50-50 or whatever the number is, but just give them a shot if it's good, and if the guys aren't living up to their part of the bargain of quality, you know, knock a few of them off and make them earn it.
Yeah. I agree, man. Yeah. It goes back to exactly what you know, what you grew up listening to and playing. You know, it's that story, it's that good song. So
yeah. And that's what I love about right now. We talked about it the other day with this new artist. I said, you can have a guitar vocal get 100 million streams. I mean, there are no rules anymore.
Yeah.
Just go out and make whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And your audience will find you. And that's kind of what we did on the record. You know, do it the way we want to. Completely selfish record. It's like, doesn't report to anybody. It's just, I had a couple friends, A&Rs, like, yes, no, maybe. Yes, you know, went with that, and just, it's the Wild Wild West. Who knows? Who knows what can happen? Yeah. So, and it's fun. It's still a blast to be here. Yep. Yeah. Love this town. Let's go back to South End Kid. So, did you say September 29th? September 29th. September 29th. That comes out. Yeah. I play here September 28th. Let's go. So Zach was nice enough to give me that. So the night, release. Yeah. Big release night. And, you know, yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. I can't wait. It's going to be out on all platforms, I assume. Everywhere. We got a great team that's helping me make sure everything's right, the looks similar, and we're posting. I'm learning social media, and I may look like a fool on there, but you know, I want to give this album the chance it deserves. So I'm going through all the motion. I'm trying not to be too silly on it because it's not a silly record. It's kind of a really good country record, country folk kind of record. So it's you. That's what I love about it. Is it's you know, it's real, it's honest, it's so good. And I think like listening through it, I could hear, you know, just the passion, and like, you know, you weren't doing this for anybody else. I think, like, you know, it's like this was your project, and it's like, you know, hope people love it, but this, you know, this is my baby, and here's some of my favorite songs, and all songs I'm a part of. There are no expectations for this record. I don't have a record deal to lose. I don't have a record deal to win. You know, it's like we did it for the simple fact that the songs are great. Yeah. And I sound pretty good singing them, and I wanted to do it. You know, it's not I told somebody the other day, we're not looking for millions and millions of streams, even though we'll take them. Yeah. But the right streams. Maybe, you know, maybe Dirk's, here's one. Maybe George Strait, here's one. You know, we're not putting a ceiling on it either, but we're planted pretty good on the floor where if we only get 500 streams or whatever, well, we probably didn't do a good job marketing, but it's okay. The victory was making the record. The victory was writing the songs to feel the record, and what we did, I'm okay with. I'm super proud of, and I hope everyone hears it and makes their own decision about it.
Yeah.
But it's probably not for everybody. It's probably not for, tailgaters that, on a festival or whatever. It's a grown adult record.
It could be. It could be for that.
Again, no ceiling.
And I mean, especially like, maybe if it's someone that's like, hey, this is not for me at the tailgate, I bet it's for them on the way home.
Yeah.
That's, it's,
I use Stapleton's and Brent's thing. It's country music for grown-ups.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's about heartbreak. It's about, and the perspectives of them, of each song, I hope are somewhat original. Like the new single Tucson. It's not the hook up, I want to go back song. It is kind of a hookup song, but I'm okay with the memory, and I still think about it. I still think about her, but that's all I needed. It's some things just ain't more than what they are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's that approach to it. Do what you want to do, and do it the way you want to do it, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So, and it's no sweat off my back if nobody wants to listen to it, but we did it.
I think it's going to be way more successful than you think. I think I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to put you on the spot. So I don't know if you want to sneak peek anything off of that record.
Sure. I'd love to do it.
But love to hear a verse and a chorus of something. So
will this microphone pick up?
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully it's still in tune. I wrote this with Steve Moakler and Andrew DeRoberts, who told me to get this hat. He was wearing it one day, and I pretty much went out and bought it right after I write.
So cool.
But I tease this as my political song. It's not political at all, but this is how I live life. It's called Just a Simple Man. Got a couple old friends, like to see them on the weekend, and I've been known to burn a candle up at both ends. I like it when the colors fade, dashboards and jangly change. Just a simple man in the world today. Campfires and cool nights, looking into your blue eyes. I like pulling for the underdogs and good guys. Like to help out where I can. Haven't got me a master plan. I'm just a simple man in a world that ain't. I guess some things never change. Yeah, the world just spins that way. I ain't crazy about the latest craze. Got a couple things that keep me sane. I'm gonna take it all day by day. Yeah, baby, that's the way I was made. I'm just a simple man in a world that ain't. Just a simple man in a world that ain't.
Let's go, man.
There you go, man.
I love it.
I appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much for being on here. This has been a blast.
Thank you for having me. And,
yeah.
And I hope you dig the record, and I hope all of y'all dig it, and
absolutely
go out and stream it, leave it on during the night on low volume.
Yeah. Get those spins up. Yeah.
But I really do appreciate it. It's always good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, man. Before we close out, I always end with the same question. So
okay,
you've been here, for 20 years or so.
Sure.
Been writing for about 15. The everything that you've gone through so far. If you're going back to 8-year-old Neil and in Kentucky. What advice do you give yourself today?
Don't worry about it as much as you do. I grew up a fat kid, so it's like a bunch of insecurities and a bunch of like, just stay out of your own head, get out of your own way. You'll find it, and just have fun doing it. You're gonna be okay. So, and yeah, move to Nashville as soon as you can, because that's where you need to be. That's what I would tell him.
Yeah.
So I've always been that kid that sang on the bed and sang in front of the mirror, and I'm still that kid, I guess.
Yeah, I love it.
Minus the bed part of it, but still sing in the mirror.
I love it. Great advice, man. Great to see you always, and yeah, it's been fun.
Same here. Thank you so much.
All right. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. You've been listening to Neil Medley. We'll see you next time. This has been an episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information after the show, head over to chrisblair.com. That's where you can find information on these episodes, trailer notes, video links, all kinds of great stuff. Also, make sure to leave us a great rating on iTunes. Like and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. I really hope that you think this show is awesome, and we really appreciate the love and support. I promise to keep gathering great content and continuing to sit down with more amazing songwriters and artists as we grow. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for the support. We'll see you next time.